I'm Jake, an electrician who was called a temporary project by my girlfriend Madison and her affluent friends. Everything exploded at a fancy dinner where they humiliated my career. When the insults peaked, she looked me dead in the eye and challenged, "If you don't like it, pay your share and get out." What did I do? I did exactly that. Instead of paying the $800 bill, I paid only $38.50 for my steak and stood up. But that wasn't the revenge. Before turning my back, I revealed the secret. I knew about her plan to ditch me, and I had already sold the 1968 Mustang, the asset she wanted, for $125,000. This is the story of how I reclaimed my respect and the heavy price she had to pay. My name is Jake. I'm 30, an HVAC technician in Nashville, Tennessee. If you ask me to define happiness, I'd say it's the smell of old engine oil, the deep rumble of a V-twin engine, and the feel of my hands gripping the handlebars of the unfinished Indian Scout 1948 in my garage. My life is simple, stable, authentic, and often covered in grease. 3 years ago, I met Madison, 29, a marketing coordinator with ambitions bigger than the Nashville skyline. She was the fire, the flashy neon light I lacked, and me? I was the solid ground she claimed she needed to anchor to. We fit together in a strange way. Or at least, I utterly believed that. The first 2 years were paradise. Long hikes through the woods, quiet Friday night dinners, assembling IKEA furniture in our first apartment. I saw myself ready to propose. I'd saved every penny and even got my grandmother to pass down her elegant white gold engagement ring. Pause. But it all turned out to be a beautiful painting on rotting canvas. Things changed when Madison got promoted. And worse, so did her inner circle of friends, Tiffany, Qley, and Brittany, who had a very clear vision of social status. In their eyes, I wasn't a boyfriend. I was an obstacle, a project needing an upgrade. The teasing started small. "Oh, Jake's wearing the greasy t-shirt again. How quaint!" Madison would laugh and tell me privately, "Don't mind them, babe. They're just kidding." But I knew they weren't. They were poisoned arrows aimed straight at my value. "Does your salary cover a designer bag for Madison, Jake?" Or, "Jake, can you fix my washing machine?" "I guess that's what you do all day." Every comment implied I was a less valuable and unambitious worker compared to Madison's new social sphere. I felt the respect for my profession and passion slowly eroding, but I tried to maintain the peace, clinging to the love we built. I was wrong. The real turning point came when we discussed buying a house. It wasn't just about real estate. It was about choosing a life. I found a lovely small house in the suburbs with a big yard and, most importantly, a huge garage for the Indian Scout and my other projects. I described it with excitement, but Madison frowned. She insisted on a much more expensive, high-rise condo in the new complex near downtown, better for personal branding and closer to the trendy bars. Stop. "Jake, don't you get it? All my friends live there. Tiffany isn't going to visit a house in a place with so many pickup trucks." Her tone wasn't a suggestion. It was a verdict. This dispute escalated into a major crisis centered around the 1968 Mustang I was restoring, my largest asset and pride. "You need to sell that car, Jake. It takes up all our space and money. We need the money for high-end furniture. You have to choose the car or our dream apartment." She framed it as a choice, but it was a cold ultimatum. I began to feel I wasn't just a boyfriend, but an obstacle to the image she wanted to build. The disagreement wasn't just about money. It was about whether she respected my life choices and core values. I started asking myself, was her love conditional on me changing? This doubt grew, making my own house feel unsafe. I quietly sought legal advice from Marcus, my best friend and a lawyer. My decision was set. At any cost, I had to protect my assets and my passion. The ultimate turning point, the moment everything crashed, occurred the night Madison was at a networking party. She left her tablet open to her Slack app on the coffee table. I looked at it, torn between guilt and a terrible need to know the truth. Finally, I did what I never thought I would. I scrolled through their group chat, the Girl Boss Collective. The content hit my heart not with fire, but with ice. It was a betrayal of my fundamental worth. Tiffany wrote, How does Madison stand the smell of his grease? She should take him shopping and make him dump that old car. And Madison's response ended everything, slamming the door on my hope. Don't worry, ladies. He's just a temporary project. I'm trying to sell his dusty old motorcycle to cover the down payment for our new condo. Then I'll help him transition into management. He can make more money and be less dirty. Those 7 words, he's just a temporary project, tore apart 3 years of love. I wasn't a partner. I was a utility she was trying to reshape. The feeling was colder and more final than any anger. I realized this wasn't just her friend's fault. It was Madison's. She had agreed with them. She had been manipulating me all along. Pause. Immediately, I quietly withdrew all my personal savings earmarked for the Mustang, securing it safely. I had to protect my passion from her manipulation. Madison's manipulation became increasingly apparent after that discovery, and I prepared myself. At her promotion party, I tried my best to fit in. I wore an uncomfortable suit, forcing fake smiles. But her friends turned every effort into a joke. When I was talking to Madison's boss's friend, Tiffany cut in, her tone dripping with unconcealed contempt. Oh, is Jake trying to learn about the stock market? He should stick to plumbing and electrical outlets. That's what he's good at. We need workers, not investors. The most painful part was Madison's reaction. She pulled me aside, her voice seething with anger, not protective of me, but angry at me. You just embarrassed me, Jake. Can't you just be humble for once? They can help my career. Do you know Tiffany's CEO could be my client? I looked at her, and instead of arguing, I spoke a cold, emotionless truth. I don't think I'm the one embarrassing you, Madison. I think I'm the only authentic person here. Stop. She couldn't deny it. I understood that I was no longer her priority. Social image and career had replaced love. I continued to gather evidence in secret, careful not to raise Madison's suspicion. I needed to know how far she had taken her plan. The next morning, I found an old mailbox key she had forgotten. Inside, I found a printed lease agreement for a small studio apartment designated for one tenant. The contract was signed the week before, long before she discussed our dream home with me. This was the second truth, the final confirmation. She planned to leave me, move into a single apartment, and of course, later try to seize my Mustang, claiming it as community property to finance her new furniture. The feeling of betrayal morphed into a chilling calmness. I decided I would not confront her at home, where I might be dragged into an endless argument. I would save this secret for the perfect moment for the final act. I called Marcus, informing him that I needed to act sooner than expected, and asked him to prepare the necessary paperwork to ensure I could leave without legal entanglement. I knew that one small mistake would allow Madison and her friends to paint me as the villain, so every step I took had to be flawless. Preparing for D-Day was a tense 2-week process, a psychological battle. I tried to maintain normality, but inside I had completely checked out of the relationship. I only discussed minimal work and logistical issues with Madison. I still helped with chores, cooked dinner, but the warmth was gone, replaced by a polite distance, an invisible wall. Madison, seemingly too busy with work and her new friends, either didn't notice the change or deliberately ignored it, too caught up in the script she had written. She continued to talk about selling the Mustang, and I simply replied, "I'll take care of it." I quickly moved the car to a rented garage far outside the city, leaving no trace. I moved the Indian Scout there too. I had protected my assets and my passion before she could list them as community property in the breakup. I felt relief, but also profound sorrow. 3 years, and it was all just a cold calculation, a failed business project. The fateful night arrived. I invited the whole group to celebrate at the luxurious steakhouse The Reserve, a move Madison was pleased with because it showcased my class. I wore my new shirt, trying to blend in one last time. I was mentally prepared for the mockery, but it no longer hurt. It only hardened my resolve. Tiffany, Qley, and Brittany arrived late and immediately started talking about expensive trips, major business deals, and naturally, the mediocrity of anyone outside their social strata. I decided not to stay silent. I mentioned the Mustang, how I was about to finish it and could sell it for a six-figure sum. Tiffany scoffed, her voice full of smug superiority. "Oh, Jake, you and that rusty old car. We joke that you use scrap money to buy Madison things. 6 figures? That's optimistic." That was the final straw. I put my knife and fork down, looking straight at Tiffany without fear. "Tiffany, I know what I'm doing. I'm the only one here who knows how to truly work with their hands. I'm an electrician and I have my worth. You can buy everything, but you can't buy respect." And then she said the sentence I had been waiting for, the sentence that gave me every reason to walk away, the sentence that ended the relationship. "If you don't like my friend's crude jokes, just pay your share and leave." She challenged me in front of all her friends, wanting me to look like the pathetic one. I smiled, a cold final smile. "Thank you for the option, Madison." "I'll take it." I pulled out my wallet. The whole table was silent. I didn't pay for the entire dinner or the expensive wine bottles. I paid only for my portion of the steak and water, $38.50. I placed the card into the payment machine, entered my PIN, and got the receipt. I left a $5 bill on the table as a tip. I stood up, looking at the pale faces of the friends and Madison's fury. She had never expected me to actually do it. Tiffany, Qley, and Brittany stared at me with shock and disdain. I declared my final statement before turning my back and walking out. "Congratulations on the promotion, Madison. I hope your friends treat you to a good dinner. And about the 1968 Mustang, you won't get a chance to sell it. I moved it to another garage. Good luck with your single studio apartment." Then I turned and walked away. I heard Brittany shout, "You a total jerk! Get back here and pay." I didn't look back. I just walked out to my car. I didn't cry. I felt an absolute profound relief. I drove straight to my friend Marcus's house. Marcus listened to the whole story and said just one sentence. "You didn't just dodge a bullet, Jake. You dodged a whole firing squad." Madison texted relentlessly for 48 hours. Initially, it was rage. "You just embarrassed me in front of all my friends. You ruined my face." Then, emotional manipulation. "You destroyed our 3 years just because of a joke. You need therapy." She even threatened to call the police, claiming I stole money from our joint account. I didn't reply to any text. I rented a small apartment with its own garage and moved out immediately. I learned that silence is the most powerful weapon against emotional manipulation. I focused all my energy on the 1968 Mustang. It wasn't just a car. It was my therapy. I installed a completely new electrical system, fixing all the old technical flaws. It took me 3 months to complete it, installing the wiring and painting it a brilliant red, naming it Freedom. When I listed it on a collector's forum, a serious collector bought it for $125,000 USD. That amount was exponentially more than Madison's estimate for financing her luxury condo. With that money, I didn't buy a downtown condo. I bought a small house with a spacious backyard and a large garage in the Nashville suburbs, exactly where I wanted to be, paying cash. I started taking on more electrical and mechanical side projects, creating my own small business. This was my personal victory. I proved that I had worth and the ability to build my own life, without the approval or upgrade of anyone. Moreover, I showed Madison the biggest mistake she made was underestimating me and my career. A month after I moved and finalized the Mustang sale, I received the last text from Madison. She said her friend group had imploded. Tiffany blamed Madison for dating beneath her and ruining the group's reputation. Brittany and Qley started turning on each other when money got tight. Madison eventually had to move back in with her parents, unable to afford the luxury studio apartment. "I'm sorry, Jake. I should have stood up for you. I miss you. Is there any chance we could try again?" I deleted the message without reading the rest. I didn't need revenge. My revenge was my peace. Marcus and I now work together restoring classic cars on weekends. The business is thriving. Recently, I met a woman named Sarah, a civil engineer. She loves hearing me talk about how engines work. She invited me to her garage to help her install a CNC machine. I finally learned one thing. Love is not a project that needs upgrading, nor is it a marketing strategy. Your worth is not defined by where you live or how much money you make, but by how you respect yourself. And now, I'm sitting in my new garage looking out at the backyard, feeling happier than ever. My Indian Scout 1948 is waiting for a perfect wiring harness. So my question is, what do you think about me only paying for my share? And what is the most expensive lesson you've ever learned about self-worth?